From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
What everybody's saying.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good. The sensation is back. Get it. It'll make your day better. It did for me on Thursday. Before we dive into the show, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of football. It's going to be awesome, Corey. We're talking about football. You ready to talk about football?
I am, man. I am. We're almost in August, right? It's about that time.
It is about that time. But also, it's time to remind folks, if you listen to this podcast on Podbean, and there's like a few thousand of you that still are holding on, which is great, but we're going to phase it out in early August or mid-August. I guess like August 11th, I think is the last day we have it set up for. So if you listen to this on Podbean and you have an Apple or iOS device, download us, subscribe to us on the Podcasts app. If you have a Android or a PC, use the Google Podcasts app. That seems to be the best one. And subscribe to the show. If you're listening to YouTube, hit the like button. Come on, hit the like button. That's all we ask.
It's the least you could do. Literally, the very least you could. Well, I guess the least you could do is nothing at all.
Yeah.
But to be a good person, the least you could do is hit the like button or subscribe button, right?
Yeah. Just, come on. Help your guys out. That's all we ask for. All right, we have plenty to talk about. It's also Renegade Express. But I guess first let's get to – I didn't read your column, Corey. I'm sorry. I mean, I just don't know, man. I just couldn't find time to carve it out and read their column about the schedule. That dropped on Wednesday, which, that was the original sort of red line in the sand or whatever. Not a red line in the sand, but just simply a line in the sand was probably going to go down Wednesday. But I think Brett McMurphy on Monday or Tuesday reported that it probably wasn't going to happen on Wednesday. And then the ACC said, Brett McMurphy, you don't know. So they released the model for the 2020 schedule. It's going to be 10 games, all conference games plus one, but we'll get to that momentarily. Notre Dame, Corey, I guess your plan came into fruition. Notre Dame will be a full-time sort of member, I guess we can call it, for 2020, and their revenue that they get from NBC, the Peacock money, will be divvied up 15 ways equally. So welcome, Notre Dame. Enjoy your stay. Don't make it a short stay. You can stay a while. But, man, I don't know what you want to talk. Do you want to talk about the layout of it, the fact that they announced before the SEC, or the overall degree of difficulty of what the 2020 schedule looks like now?
It's your call, buddy. You lead the way. You drive.
Oh, so much pressure. Well, first off, I thought it was kind of cool. I thought it was kind of cool that they went ahead of the SEC and were like, we're just going to go ahead and do what we got to do. We're going to do 10 games plus one, which I get it. They wanted to keep the seasonal or the annual rivalries open, and that kind of put the ball in the SEC's court, and the SEC punted on Thursday and just showed how big of a yellow belly coward they are by saying that we want no part of Clemson, we want no part of Louisville, we want no part of Florida State or the Ramblin' Wreck. So a little bit of a moral victory for the ACC by kind of putting it out there that, hey, we're willing to play you folks. And they said, yeah, we're not going to do that. So, put that in your pipe and smoke at the SEC. 10 plus 1. It's probably 10, though, right?
Well, we'll see. We'll see if they hold to that plus one or not. If every Power 5 conference besides the ACC goes to a just conference-only schedule, then it really would make, in my opinion, I don't know how much sense it would make to still have your plus one so you play Samford. Like, how is that?
FAU, let's go.
Yeah, you could
Come
FAU. There wouldn't be any games that would be meaningful enough to you revenue-wise, assuming there are crowds involved, for you to really I just don't see anything to gain from playing a Samford or a Troy or an FAU or an FIU or UCF. There's obviously something to gain playing Florida. And in fact, when I wrote my column on Wednesday, I was of the opinion that it was going to be Florida would be the last game. I assumed they would do they did the plus one strictly for that almost. So the ACC teams could keep those SEC powers alive. Now that those are gone because the Gators are ducking the Knowles. By the way, the winning streak's over. Doesn't matter if you win in 2021. Your winning streak stopped at 2.
Yep.
Because when you duck the season the next year, it restarts at 0. Restarts at 0. Sorry, guys. You don't have a 2-game winning streak. You have a 0-game winning streak. It ended. But yeah, so once that went out the window, I guess you could keep a Samford, but it would have to be somebody like that, right? You're not going to play Oklahoma State or Oklahoma, it's a bummer because they played since the 50s. But in reality, what you really want to know, and what they have not announced yet, and maybe don't even know or haven't even gotten to that point, and they'll figure it out in the coming months, is what happens in 2021. Does Florida State have to go back to Florida? So the Gators, by their conference saying you're not playing a non-conference game, Florida gets to host Florida State 2 times in a row. Is that how that works? I don't see that being real equitable or fair. So I'm curious to see how Florida State and Florida manage that moving forward. Because I would assume David Coburn, John Thrasher, the people that matter at Florida State, would be like, no, we're not playing in the swamp 2 years in a row. It's not happening. So you're coming to our house in 2021. Sorry. But then, I know the people listening to this will be like, okay, well, that means you get Miami and Florida in the same year at home, which means in 2022 you get neither. Well, I'm of the opinion that Florida State could agree to go play at Miami in 2021. Because this year they're going to play at Miami, but how many fans are going to be there? 11? 30? Like, that's not really an away game. So just like it wouldn't necessarily be fair for Miami get to host Florida State but have no fans there, they'll get their actual Miami-Florida State game, which is the only game anybody down there shows up for every 2 years. They'll get that in 2021, and Florida State gets Florida in 2021. You just flip how the schedule's always been, so you keep Florida and Miami on at home on every other season. That makes sense. Was I speaking coherently there?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
I'm probably, to most people that listen to the show, I'm probably too critical of Florida State when it comes to many things. But I dig my heels on this. Like, absolutely. And I mean, there's a freaking global pandemic going on. I mean, I'm not going to rattle off all the numbers and everything. I think most people that care about their fellow man and what's going on in the world read these sort of things. I will spare you the details. But absolutely not does Florida get off with, well, we've scheduled all these other games, and with the belief that we're going to be, hosting on odd number years, so we can't mess all this up. No, Florida State, absolutely, there's no way you take. I'd walk away from the rivalry. I honestly would walk away from the rivalry if they said in 21 and 22 back to back, like, you got to come to the Swamp. Like, absolutely not.
Well, yeah, or whatever it would be 19. Yeah, it'd be 2019 and 2021. 2 games in a row where it's not a home and home. It's just home for Florida, home for Florida. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that could be on the table. Nobody would want that, and they might call you that bluff. But absolutely, there's just no way that you let them host 2 years in a row. Because it's not like they're going to let Florida State host in 2022 and 2023.
Right.
I mean, if they're willing to do that, sure, but they're not going to be. And Florida State still, if that happened, Florida State would still have the problem of that 1 year where they wouldn't have Florida or Miami on the schedule. So, yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Like, this is – the SEC made their choice. We assume the Florida president voted for that choice. So he was on board with it. And, yeah, sorry, man. Florida State does not go back there in 2021. I mean, they might, but they should not. Because, yeah, that's not fair. That's not how that works.
Yeah, I think it was a 13-1 vote in the SEC to do conference only, and the president or the chancellor from South Carolina, I think, was the only one who, went against the vote.
Oh, he wanted Clemson.
Come on, I bring it on. I'll play the Tigers.
Yeah,
so
he's not scared.
Again, they're gonna pull this whole thing again about that they've made all these future schedules.
Okay, but I hear what you're saying, and I get that.
I don't agree with it. I'm just saying that's going to be their excuse.
No, that's going to be their excuse. But then you come back with, okay, you playing whoever, Michigan, somewhere, is that more important than your in-state rival? Sorry, you make an adjustment to those games. But this game stays the way it is, meaning you owe us a home game. Yeah. So you come and play us at Doak in 2021. I'm speaking as David Coburn. I'm not on the team. You come play us at Doak in 2021. I don't care what it does to your 2021 schedule. I don't. This is we all have to make sacrifices. Everybody's making sacrifices in this thing. Well, we should.
And like you said, Florida State sacrifices. They'll go down to Miami 2 years in a row. I think that's, you flip it. Like Florida now becomes a road contest on even-numbered years, and they become a home game on the odd-numbered years. And then you go back-to-back years down in Miami to keep that sort of, at least one of the in-state games in Doak every season. And I think that's a total fair and practical, pragmatic compromise. And I would hope that Florida would be able to see that and agree to it.
I'm curious too about Clemson, and there are two. I mean, maybe Notre Dame's a full-time member now, so now there's three. There's two real football schools in this conference. There's one game that's mattered more than any other in this conference for, I don't know, the better part of a decade or 2 decades, and that's Florida State Clemson. So again, when we talk about fairness, if let's just say that the ACC caps home attendance, and again, I'm working under the impression that I think maybe by the time these games start, it'll be like pro sports. There just won't be fans. But right now, they're still holding out hope that they can have fans at these games. Sure, fine, whatever. But say that Florida State is capped at 12,000, and Clemson gets 1,000 of those tickets. So Florida State can only have 11,000 people at Doak for the Clemson game, and that's a high estimate in my opinion. Is that really so? Then the next real game that these two teams play in front of fans, it's Death Valley again. So Clemson gets 80,000, Florida State gets 9, Clemson gets 80,000 again. Again, I think the ACC can take care of the teams that matter. And yes, you could say, man, NC State and Wake Forest, we're not going to make that same adjustment for them. We're not going to make NC State go to Wake Forest 2 times in a row. Nobody gives a flip about NC State Wake Forest. Nobody, not even the people at that school. Nobody knows where those games are played. The team doesn't even know until the night before. Their coach tells them, hey, guys, we got to get on a bus and go to Winston-Salem. Oh, wait, I thought it was a home game. No, nobody cares. But Florida State, Clemson, these are big deals to these universities. Huge deals, and they're huge games. And it doesn't seem right to me that Clemson would get essentially again. Now, they have to play Florida State, but they could play in a parking lot. They could play at Leon High. There's not going to be any fans are the biggest part of the road atmosphere. Obviously, they make it that tougher. And so, I know it wasn't tough the last time Clemson came to Doak, but theoretically, it might be tougher the next time when there are fans involved in a couple years. So, that's what I wonder if the ACC can make adjustments that way for the teams that matter, and say, look. Florida State. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing.
They should. I don't know if they will.
I think you're going to have to make a choice between competitive and competitive sort of balance and a cash balance. So maybe like if Florida State does have to go to Death Valley, they're not going to get Clemson at home. They're not going to get any money from that. Maybe Clemson does something next year where they give some of the gate to Florida State.
Right.
Find some sort of balance there between if teams don't want to help out and schedule to where there's a balance of revenue, at least maybe give some of the gate that you get on that big game. Because, the even-numbered years, 2020 even-number year, is when Florida State makes their money when it comes to selling season tickets, because you have Clemson and you have Florida coming to Doak Campbell Stadium. And they're not going to get Florida, obviously, and the Clemson game is probably going to be played with a maximum of, we're guessing, probably 25% capacity. That's, 12,000, I think you said, with your solid public school education? I'm not the math guy.
Yeah, 1/5 of 70-something is, 15,000.
Yeah,
like
right
that.
around there. So, again, I think maybe how about this? Do you think it'll be easier to strike that kind of balance with a Clemson or Florida? Like to find the compromise to where either, all right, we'll let you, Florida's either going to be like, all right, we'll play in Doak Campbell on an odd number year and change the way it's been, or asking Clemson to maybe think about, hey, will you come down here 2 years in a row because we really didn't get a home game out of you? Who do you think will be more cooperative?
Oh, I don't. That's a hard one. I don't know. I would assume I'd assume Clemson, because they're in the same conference at least, and they could understand, and they would hopefully care about their fellow conference mate more than the rival that shares no money with Florida State. I would have thought honestly that this would have been I know they like having Clemson on the even number of years, but maybe this is the year you tell the ACC, okay, we'll play at Clemson this year again. We'll go 2 years in a row to Clemson. Give us another, like flip one of the home, like make Duke come to Tallahassee and have Florida State go to Clemson. Yeah. It's just the marquee game in this conference. Let's hope that in 2 years, Florida State is back to being a 9-10 win team, top 15 program, and Clemson is Clemson. That's the marquee game in the conference, and that will be 2 years in a row, 2 games in a row, essentially, because I'm not counting a game in front of 9,000 fans. And 3 out of 4 will have been in Death Valley. That's not fair. So, yeah, I would have thought that maybe Florida State could have offered, hey, since we're going to limit capacity anyway to maybe a few thousand, maybe in 2020 we play at Clemson again. That would have been, because you're not making any money on that game. You're right. That's a huge money maker. Anyway, season tickets you're not making any money on season tickets this year. Yeah. When Clemson comes to call and you make season tickets, now you're making Florida State delay that for another 2 years. I mean, it's not just the one game, right? It's not just, we might have a sellout for that game. They sell thousands upon thousands of season tickets based solely on Clemson and Florida. I guess that's not solely. Based mainly on Clemson and Florida. So, Clemson's a big deal. Clemson's a reason to buy season tickets. So they got to figure out a way to do that so they don't go, what would that be, 3 years? Essentially 3 years without having Clemson as a home game.
Well, yeah, because 18 was just such a debacle.
Yeah. And then you go 19, 20. I mean, so 18 was the last home game against Clemson, because I'm not counting this. 9,000 or 7,000 or 14,000 isn't a college football home game. So you're going to go from 18 to 2022, right? Yeah. Would be the next time you get to advertise, hey, Clemson's on our home schedule. That's not fair either, man. That's not – Florida State doesn't need that. They got to figure out – I guess they can't. I don't know. Or maybe Clemson comes back again next year.
All that said, I'm kind of happy they don't have to play the Gators. Kind of happy. Not going to lie.
I was wondering, Norvell's probably not unhappy. Like, if they're going to trade Florida for Samford, which, again, I just think at that point don't even play. But if you're going to play, I mean, that's an extra win. And on the schedule, like I wrote on Wednesday that I thought the schedule got tougher with Notre Dame.
Absolutely.
But then when you look at it now that Florida's not in it, when you take the lens of Florida being on the schedule off, I mean, yes, you've got Clemson, Notre Dame, and Miami. Clemson and Notre Dame both won over 11 games last year. Those are big-time teams. But you also got the 3 worst teams in the conference. You got the 3 teams that didn't make a bowl game in Georgia Tech, Duke, and who's the other one? NC State.
Yeah.
So, you can look at it one way and you say you traded Boise State and West Virginia for, Notre Dame and Georgia Tech, and you got a chance now. You've got 2 games that you think you're going to lose, right? You're not going to probably beat Notre Dame, but they're not unbeatable, right? And you're not going to beat Clemson. Well, but all the other games are winnable, right?
Yeah, they're winnable. Yeah, I mean, coin tosses.
I think both of us thought that Florida. Maybe you had.
Didn't like that,
especially with no crowd.
Yeah.
You didn't. I just didn't like you. We didn't like their chances there. Well, that Florida game has been replaced by pick one.
I wonder what are they going to. I mean, so is it going to be 4 wins to be bowl eligible, 5 to be bowl eligible? If everyone's just going to only play 10 games, I wonder how that's going to work out. But to your point,
5. I think 5 gets you there. But I mean, that's assuming there are bowls.
Yeah, it's assuming that we even get all these 10 games played. I think Gene floated a theory in one of the videos that we posted on YouTube about. Because the way the ACC announced this was, obviously they put it out that, these will be your home games, your away games, +1. But it was going to start, the first games would be between September 7th and 12th. And September 7th is a Monday. And apparently in 2021, Florida State's, they're not. Are they going to host Notre Dame again in 2021? Apparently, 2021, I think they're supposed to host Notre Dame on a Monday night. So Gene's theory is that they'll probably make Florida State open up at Notre Dame on September 7th, which is a Monday. So I feel like that makes it more difficult, right? Like you want
your chances of starting with a win just dropped
Plummet.
exponentially.
Yeah.
They plummet. Hey, it's a good test. It'll be a good test for Chubba right out of the gate.
Let's go.
Or James or whoever's doing it. That makes sense though. You got to have a marquee game. All eyes would be on you, which might be a bad thing. Who knows? That would make sense, right? And did they get Notre Dame in 2021?
Yeah, and I apologize. It would be Sunday, September 5th, 2021. Season opener would be Notre Dame in Tallahassee. So.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
So, probably Florida State will, I think Gene's theory holds some water.
So imagine a home schedule where I guess 2021, if you have Notre Dame in Florida, assuming Florida's coming, that's going to sell some tickets anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine one with Notre Dame, Florida, and Clemson. Like maybe that's okay with them if they get Notre Dame and Florida, that they'll be like, okay, we'll stagger Clemson. Yeah. But still, that's 4 years without a Clemson gate. That's a big deal, man.
Hurts.
But hey. Yeah, dude. Hey, we're all trying to adjust to this awful time in our lives.
So what were your thoughts then looking at the schedule? I guess you actually surprisingly looked at it through a pretty. Well, I shouldn't say surprising. You are the optimistic guy on here. But when I looked at it, I guess I saw Ira's tweet first, which kind of poisoned the well with me. Ira's big company man, big Florida State supporter. You'd almost think that he went to Florida State and I went to the other institution, but that's neither here nor there. I looked at him like, dang, man, like we got North Carolina now, and we got we no Syracuse. You looked at, I guess you're talking about what teams are you talking about swapping, and then you end up getting Notre Dame. I'm looking at it like you lost Syracuse and you lost Wake Forest. Like you lost 2 wins, and then they get replaced by North Carolina and Virginia.
Well, let me stop you right there, buddy. They just lost to Wake Forest last year, and they got hammered by Syracuse the year before. No wins are guaranteed. I don't know that home against Wake is any different than home against North Carolina. You'd hope it would be. I think North Carolina's better, a little more talented.
Man, Sam Howell's going to come here.
Sam
chip
Howell's
on his shoulder.
What's his chip on his shoulder for? They wanted him. He should come here and apologize. Sorry, guys. Sorry I left you with this. My bad. He should feel bad. He should throw 5 picks to make up for it. So, I think, you trade BC, Syracuse, and Wake are off the schedule. But, none of those are – the way Florida State's been lately, you can't point to any of those as guaranteed wins. They're replaced with Duke, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina, and Virginia. You get Virginia again.
Yeah.
So, I think –
which I'm not scared of. I think Georgia Tech's going to be trickier than Virginia, to be honest.
Man, I think all these games, you don't look at these games and be like, oh, that's an absolute win. I think what helps is that, again, when you look at it is, I think if it's a normal season, at Duke might be difficult. Yeah. At Louisville would be difficult. Yeah. At NC State. You never play well at NC State, ever. Yeah. Well, now there's going to be nobody there. It's going to be, you might as well be playing at a high school. There's not going to be any urine bags thrown at you. So you've got Duke in front of 6 people. You've got Georgia Tech. You've got Louisville in front of 10 people. Miami's not going to have anybody there. And you can make your jokes all you want about they're used to that. But not for the Florida State games. Florida State games, there's usually people there. So all the, the road games at Notre Dame, to me, that if you're getting Notre Dame, it seems essentially a home and home. But you get to go to Notre Dame when they're going to have 5 people there. Yeah. And then they come back to you and you have 80,000. That's a trade off. That's a good win. I just look at that schedule now without Florida on it, and you're like, man, okay, you probably go in thinking you're going to lose 2 for sure. All the other ones, I get tired of saying it, but all the other ones are almost like coin flips. Yeah. But I think Wake Forest at home, it shouldn't be, but I think there's nothing that tells us for sure that Wake at home isn't a coin flip. Yeah.
Well. Clemson, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Pitt, Virginia at home, Duke, Louisville, Miami, NC State, Notre Dame on the road. I do wonder, I don't know if it was somebody was talking about Ohio State, Michigan, because we're still in a very tenuous situation with the overall, pandemic and everything. And with Gene's sort of theory about maybe Notre Dame being the opener on a Monday night possibly up there in South Bend with Florida State, I do wonder how they're going to sort of stagger the schedule. You don't have to really worry. I mean, you're not going to be selling 20% of your capacity. I think no matter who you play, you're going to get the same amount of people in the stands. But I do wonder, are they going to try to get Clemson, Florida State week 2 or 3 so that it's more of a confidence point thing if you're looking at it in terms of like picking games almost. Like if we put Clemson and Florida State week 8, will we get to week 8? Or do we put them at week 3 because we feel pretty confident that we'll still have the season going and there won't be, a spike in numbers because we want to play that game. But you're not really going to affect attendance, but maybe your television partners. I think ESPN's probably going to have a lot to say in terms of, Ohio State, Michigan, figure it out. You're not playing week 10. No. We need this game to be played. I do wonder, how they'll stagger these things out. Have you considered how much more difficult that'll be for this coaching staff if they've got Notre Dame and Clemson in the first 3 weeks of the season and then it's backloaded with the more manageable opponents? How tough that'll be for this coaching staff as if they needed anything to get more difficult on their plate?
I wouldn't think the ACC. I know people would laugh when I'll say this, but I don't think the ACC would do that to Florida State, where it's all right, here you go, Notre Dame and Clemson, 2 of the first 3 weeks. I don't think they'll do that to Florida State.
What if they do it to Florida State?
Well, if they do it, that's a bit of a challenge.
Rebellion?
That's a bit of a daunting task.
We secede.
Yeah. You forfeit. You just say, hey, it's too dangerous. We're not playing. I don't foresee that happening. But if it did, that's a huge challenge. And it's also, again, you just want the fan base to be uplifted, even if you're not winning games. If you go to Notre Dame and don't lose by 5 touchdowns, but there's a chance that can happen. And then 2 weeks later, you're playing Clemson in front of 8,000 at your stadium, and they can name a score, perhaps. That's not the way you want to get a rebuilding process started, optics-wise. But then again, there's something to be said for maybe getting the 2 toughest out of the way, and then saying, all right, well, let's go win the last 8. And then you can build on something going into 2021. I don't know. It's going to be a challenge regardless. You're right. I do think they're going to want at least a couple marquee. There aren't a ton of marquee opportunities for the ACC with big names, but they're definitely going to want Notre Dame, Clemson, or Notre Dame, Florida State early on in the season, I think.
Finally, an answer to the age-old question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg roll? Easy. Just eat whichever one's closest. The Sensation Salad and Filet Sandwich Meal are back at Zaxby's. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, crispy wontons, Asian slaw, and citrus vinaigrette. And each comes with its very own egg roll for a limited time only at Zaxby's. Try them with fried pickles while supplies last.
Hey, man, let's hop on the ponies and let's get some of these questions in. We're not going to probably be able to get to all of them because we had all this to talk about. First question, though, comes from Team Money Knowles. Could this be Coach Ham's best ever class after landing another 4-star? What an amazing offseason. Tons of momentum going forward. Go Knowles!
Well, that's a tough one to say. I mean, there was a class that had Jonathan Isaac, PJ Savoy, Trent Forrest, Brian Angola. I think all those that was one class. So probably not better than that one necessarily. Anything with Isaac and Forrest is a pretty incredible class. But yeah, it looks like it's right up there. I mean, it's now ranked, I think it's number 2 on the Rivals site, number 2 recruiting class in the country. They just keep on rolling along, man. It's incredible. It's awesome to see. It's just crazy that it wasn't that long ago. This isn't a shot at my man, but it wasn't that long ago that Robbie Berwick was coming in. Guys like that, and Robert Gilchrist, and now they have these guys coming in. Sadar Calhoun and Scotty Barnes in this class, which let's all hope we get to see those 2 dudes play. And then next year you have these guys coming in that they just got commitments from. It's
Matthew
It's
Cleveland, John Butler, let's go.
Yeah, the old JB. It's really incredible, honestly, that it just doesn't happen like this, Aslan. You don't finally get to your mountaintop, whatever you deem Florida State's mountaintop to be, like Leonard did and win the ACC title in 2012, then fall completely off the mountain into a meteor pit, and then climb back up into a bigger mountain. Like it just, that doesn't ever happen. Yeah. But they had the dip. They had the 4-year dip. They got unlucky on some recruits and some injuries, but they had a bad dip. You go look at that class they signed the year they won the first ACC championship. You're like, oh, how did that happen? What how did y'all not build on that success? But they changed the way they played because it wasn't a real appealing style of play. They changed the way they played. They changed who they recruited. CY made a huge difference on the recruiting trail, Charlton Young. And then they started getting guys to the league because they're really, really good at developing talent. And now every year we're not surprised what they do. The one year they didn't sign like a 5-star guy was the year they got Devin Vassell. So
he was all right.
Yeah,
he was decent.
Yeah, he turned out to be pretty good. So yeah, they're crushing it right now. Good for them.
What class would that have been? The class of 12 or 13 that didn't capitalize off the ACC title?
It would have been the class of 2012.
Ojo, Bojo, Gilchrist, Monte Brandon, Devin Bookert, Aaron Thomas.
Aaron Thomas was the best of that bunch, but he got kicked out of school. Bookert was a nice player. Ojo had a good senior season. The rest of that was just not great. Yeah. Just not. They didn't. And then you look at what they did after Bacon and Beasley changed the whole program. Yeah, just changed the whole program. Like even though they didn't make the tournament that year and they had an awful losing streak that cost them a chance at the tournament, they became more of a known commodity because of Bacon and Beasley. And then the next year they get Isaac, and then it just gets off and running. Yeah. Trent Forrest, Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann came in. I shouldn't just call 15, it Bacon and Beasley. Yeah, Bacon, Beasley, and Mann. And that was an incredible class.
Also, Jean-Marc Kumaji.
Yeah. Oh, did he come in with Bacon and Beasley?
Yeah.
Oh, look at go.
At least he's on the 15 commitment list, but he's not Christ. He's Jean-Marc.
Oh, all right.
Jean-Marc. Yeah. Right on.
But it worked. So yeah, they've made a much better use of this climb to the mountain.
Oh, absolutely.
In the state, they're here for a while now. Yeah. It would appear.
And hopefully there'll be people that actually watch it. And in terms of it's like if you're talking about like the metaphor of climbing a mountain, it's like getting up to Everest and there's nobody there to take a photo of you, and it's like he had his best team ever maybe, and then. Yeah, pandemic just ruins everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and he has his best recruit ever probably in Scotty Barnes. Yeah. Let's hope we get to see that dude play.
Yeah. Whack 169 comment about Leyburn getting kicked off made him think most of the juniors and seniors on this team may all be too far gone mentally and emotionally to help with the rebuild. 3 coaches in 4 years. I don't know what kind of relationships these guys have with male figures in their lives, but getting walked out on by one, having one that is supposed to help you, make you feel better, taken away, and then getting thrown a third coach that you don't know and didn't recruit can't help. That's a deep thought.
Yeah, it's hard for me to comment on that, like on their mindsets. But you hope they're competitors, and also they want to get to the league. So even if they don't completely buy in, they better bust their butts to try to get, to try to get on the field, get playing time, and make some money in the future. I think they want to win. I mean, don't you? You only get one chance at college football. You only get one chance to do this, and I would assume they all really want to win, and you would hope. Like what the last 2 or 3 years, I mean, there's something to that they're just like, oh, what does it matter? I'm sure there might be that portion of a mindset that's in there, but you'd hope most of the mindset is, man, I'm tired of this and I want to win, so I'm going to do what this guy tells me to do. So let's hope.
How about, is it easier, I guess, if you're a quote Willie recruit to ratchet up and I guess follow the example that Mike Norvell's trying to set? Than it is to be a guy that was brought in by Jimbo and have the standard that he was trying to set, and then having a guy like Willie come in and try to reset it.
Man, I don't know that it shouldn't matter. I don't know what the answer to that, but it shouldn't matter because it's like whatever y'all been doing for the last 3 years has been crap. It's been awful. You guys cool going 18-20? You don't know anything. You don't know anything about being a winning football team. So try to listen to the guy that just went to the Cotton Bowl.
I just took down Tulsa, son. I just took down Cincinnati.
He might know what he's talking about. So give him a listen and give it a try because doing it the way you were doing it, I mean, I can't imagine they're holding on to that. Like, well, no, Willie did it a different way. Coach Taggart did this. Well, yeah, Coach Taggart's way was awful here. So listen to this guy, try to change and make some adjustments. And hopefully, I mean, I would be surprised if, I mean, I think the guys that would be an issue aren't here anymore. I would be surprised if we see like some sort of mass Charlie Strong exodus in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think the guys that want to be here, the guys that have bought in are here.
Big Steve 22 has a pretty cool thought, it seems like, here about what about scheduling, I guess these smaller conference schools for a spring game. That would generate lots of interest for the Power 5 program, and it would make the game competitive, and the smaller schools could get some money from it. That wouldn't be a bad idea, but I guess, I don't know. You probably don't want to split the money from the Garden and Gold game. I mean, would you rather split, 15,000 people? Or actually, would you rather keep all the money from 15,000 people showing up to a spring game, or would you rather split money when 27,000 people show up? Although, I don't know. If you played a spring game against Samford, I don't know, maybe they bring a good amount of people to Tallahassee.
Yeah, they probably would. Florida State every now and again will play an exhibition game. The basketball team will play an exhibition game against some other school in Florida, some small school in Florida, and they'll bring like a couple busloads over. Yeah. So, I would think somebody like Samford or a smaller school, even like a Georgia Southern or a Georgia State or somebody would bring some folks with them. That said, I don't really necessarily know what Florida State would have to gain from it, but you could also make the argument that, you're just helping out the sport.
And I think Mike Norvell, being a guy that played at Central Arkansas, again, he probably realizes, I think Jimbo probably was a little, I don't know how sincere he was in that whole thing about, we played these games because we need to help these other teams out. I don't know if that's the way he feels about everything in life, about helping less fortunate people out.
Altruistic, yeah.
Secondly, from Big Steve-O, final thought, when Norvell was first hired, many folks were not pleased, but now it seems like everyone's view has changed. Thoughts? It seems a bit premature. I mean, so far so good, but we haven't.
Yeah, so far so good. Right? Yeah. We like what we see. We like what we hear. We haven't seen little. We've seen little, but we like what we hear a lot. Seems like a really sharp guy. Has a good plan. Seems to. But again, Saturdays dictate how you feel about your head coach. That's going to be true until the end of time.
Let's put that on a T-shirt, man. I'll let you handle this one. Probably don't spend too much time on it because we talked about it a lot in the open, I guess we would call it. Knowles MG4, good morning, my good sirs. Wake up! Will one of you please explain why the ACC continues to treat us like the redheaded stepchild? We just went to Notre Dame 2 years ago. Now we're headed back. It just seems like they love to stick it to us every chance they get. Thank you for all you do, especially during these difficult times. Take care. Stay safe.
Yeah, I don't see it in this instance that Florida State is getting screwed in any way. Yeah. It's just like they all got to make I guess you could say they shouldn't have to play Notre Dame. Well, maybe that was the way they got Notre Dame to do this. Is to be like, we'll give you Florida State. We'll give you a huge game out of the gate. And also that better help you maybe become a full-time member for real. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like maybe they decided to help out Notre Dame. They definitely helped out Notre Dame, obviously.
Well, they gave Notre Dame Clemson. That's not. I mean, they could have been a lot nicer to Notre Dame and just given them patsies, but they gave them Clemson too. So. Well,
yeah, but Notre Dame wants that. I mean, Notre Dame never shies away from tough games, so they definitely want marquee games, and ACC gave them the two that they could give them. The two that mattered to anyone.
I didn't give Miami. I figured they would have been like, give us Miami instead of Clemson. That's got some juice, and we can probably win that one.
Well, they might get to play Clemson again in the conference championship game if they're good enough. You know what I mean?
Oh, that'd be brutal.
Might have a repeat or a rematch in the conference championship game. I just don't see it with this one. You got to play teams. You're playing Miami. Miami, you knew you were going to play, and you knew you were going to play Clemson. They gave you Notre Dame. But if you were running the ACC and you had to do this, and Notre Dame was coming in as a full-time member for 1 year, and maybe you're trying to, roll out the red carpet a little bit to show them the benefit of playing in the ACC full-time. And look, you get these in the ratings that you will get from these games and say, look, see, if you're in a conference and you're playing these teams all the time, you're going to have as good a ratings as you do when you're playing Navy and Stanford and whoever else. Then you would do the same thing. You would make sure that Florida State plays Notre Dame. If I was running the conference, Florida State Notre Dame would be a no-brainer when Notre Dame joins the conference full-time. Right? Wouldn't you do the same thing?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So you're trying to get ratings. You're trying to appeal to Notre Dame so maybe they'll stop being an independent and join your conference full-time.
Mad AMCZ, wake up and hey now. We have a schedule and we're playing football. So much negativity on the TC. That's the Tribal Council Premium Board, warchant.com. Use the promo code warchant30. So much negativity about how FSU got screwed on the schedule by the ACC. But I, for one, am excited about playing North Carolina, Virginia, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, rather than Syracuse, Wake Forest, Boston College. I'd rather play Boise than Notre Dame, but let's go up to South Bend and shock them. He does mention about the who we want for the +1 if the SEC does a 10-game only season or conference-only thing. I think UCF would be a fun opponent. If we play in Orlando, it's basically a neutral site for the fan base. We got to eliminate fan base from the equation when we're thinking about these things. There's not going to be people like large swath. I mean, there's going to be 10,000 people in these stadiums. I don't want UCF. I would take FAU if we had to play, or USF. I would take one of them. I don't want FIU. No, I think like you mess around Butch Davis. Butch Davis might do something crazy and beat you, and UCF could beat you, and like that. Those would be, I don't want to say cataclysmic. Those would hurt, man. If you lost a directional Florida school year one, that's. I mean, Ed Orgeron lost to Troy on homecoming, and he won a national title 2 years later, so it's not the end of the world. But boy, you just don't want to start off. I don't want anything to do with UCF.
I wouldn't see the point of playing any of those teams, because the reason you'd play, you would think, is for a gate, and for your fans. And if it's only going to be a few thousand anyway, I don't see the point in playing those games. Yeah. I'm sure they might add one of those types of teams, but I feel like you add a team that you know you're going to beat. But hey, they played Samford 2 years ago, and that wasn't a cakewalk, was it?
And what about Louisiana Monroe?
Yeah, they don't have cakewalks anymore, so who knows?
Captain D_63, howdy, Aslan and Corey. Hope all is well. My question for you, too, is if FSU has the 20% fans like the Big Ten Conference, or you just said the Big Conference, would the band and students be separate from the 20% since their fee is included in their tuition, or having the band, students, and fans all be included into the 20%? We need the students and the band, so I hope they separate them from the 20% of the fans they allow in the stadium. What's your thoughts? Thanks for all the content you all write and video. It brightens my day up here in the Carolinas. Go Noles. That's a good question. I would think that they're all, there's not immunity. Like 20% is 20%. There's 10,000, I think is 10,000. I don't think it would be 10,000 plus X amount of band members and student body.
Correct. Yeah, it's going to be a total for the stadium. And again, if we're looking at 20%, what is Doak seat now? Is it right at 80,000?
No, it's below. I think it's like 73,000 now, I want to say.
All right, so then, that's about 15,000 if you're doing 20%. So let's just use a nice round number and say 15,000. Maybe a couple thousand are students if you're going to allow them at all. And the only thing I could think you would do is it certainly wouldn't be fair to charge them athletic fees and then not let them come to the games when that's a big part of the athletic fees.
You're right, though. So, sorry to interrupt you. 79,560 is the current capacity. I thought we went down, man.
Well, you did by 3,000 or 4,000.
Yeah, it used to be 82.
I guess they did that when they did the Champions Club.
Champions.
So either way, we'll stick with 60. We'll stick with 15,000. Yeah. So I maybe you have a couple thousand of them are students, maybe, but you're going to still make 30,000 students pay for the right to go to a football game when you've diminished their chances of going to the game by like 85%.
Right.
That doesn't seem fair. So yeah, these are all decisions that athletic directors and presidents in college administrators are going to have to make when it comes to athletic fees and what they're going to do for their students. I would think for this 1 year, it would me personally, I would think it would just be the student, or not the students. It would just be season ticket holders. Longtime season ticket holders get first dibs on these tickets.
Yeah, I
not
mean,
students.
I just think about me being 19 years old and like coming to Florida State and then being told I cannot go to a football game. I mean, I would understand if it was like nobody can go, but if they're like we're only going to let a certain amount, and I know money talks at the end of the day, but man, that would crush me. I know when I was in school, I know that Florida, you had to actually pay for your season tickets as a student. It was maybe like $100 for 5-6 games or whatever. But maybe do it like that. Find some way to reduce the student fee by a certain percentage and let the kids that want to pay and go to the games have a chance. Make it lottery based or something. I hear these things. There's a school out there that's not being named that apparently wants to make a bubble. And by making a bubble, they just want to close the entire campus down to everybody but football players. And I'm just like, you can't do that. I mean, it's a brilliant kind of, that would
You
work.
can do whatever you want.
You can.
You absolutely can do that.
By the way, Corey, somebody stole that from Corey's mind, like Inception or whatever. They went into his brain and stole that idea. You got to make it some sort of lottery-based thing. And I'm sure even the diehard student kid that's delivering Zaxby's for Uber Eats or whatever, give them a shot. I mean, even 500 students in there is better than none. I mean, it's
just
college
not going to be,
football,
but it's not like they're going to be crammed together like they normally are. There's going to be protocols on where they can sit.
Oh, I know,
And
but
so it's not going to be like a real student section anyway. They're not going to be row after row, leaning on each other. It's going to be spaces for each person and rows for each person, like probably every other row, and you can sit 6 feet apart. So it's not going to be much of a student section anyway. I feel like they would be a little harder to police than regular season ticket holders because you have the threat. If a season ticket holder doesn't follow the protocols that you have the threat of taking away their season tickets.
Well, that's why you make the kids pay. You make a 20-year-old kid that's working, Uber, like you make him pay for his ticket, man. That's gonna, trust me, $20 for a 20-year-old is going to hurt a lot more than like $2,000 for a 63-year-old.
I'm interested to see what they'll do with that whole situation with the seating. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Very ahead of ourselves. To me, I just see it. I think these administrators are seeing how it's working, and now that the NBA has started and Major League Baseball is still going for now, that they see that, okay, it's not great, it's not ideal, but these games can work with no fans in attendance. We can put 1,000 cardboard cutouts and call it a day. And not bring in students to watch these games or not bring in fans to watch these games. That's not what they want to do, but I mean, it's certainly on the table now. And I think we're really getting ahead of ourselves as far as fan attendance and where they're going to sit. But if it does happen, I really am curious what they do with the band.
Yeah.
Like they can't all be crammed together, obviously. They're not going to want that to happen. And you can't play an instrument with a mask on. Or maybe you can.
And don't you kind of have to be close to each other to make the music sound right acoustically?
But
symphonies.
Don't you think there'll be like two row? Like normally, say the trombones are like in the row right behind the flautists,
right?
Maybe the trombones are now 2 rows or 3 rows behind the flautists.
Yeah, you're right. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we can bring David Plack on here and get his thoughts on that.
But yeah, I wonder because you want the band there, man. If the band's not going to be there, good grief. You do want the band there. And do you think you could play with a mask on? Like obviously you can play the drums with a mask on, but can you play a woodwind instrument with a mask on? Can't you still blow through the?
Maybe they can do a dental dam. Ira Brofell, wake up! Thank you guys for all your content you're putting out. I'm loving all the YouTube stuff. Appreciate that. By the way, if you're listening to this on YouTube again, hit the like button. It matters, believe it or not. Question, can you guys shine some light on why the last staff would not let Jordan Travis throw? Did he look at least capable in the 2018 spring game? I thought he actually looked pretty good throwing the ball that day, with the exception of a few late throws. I didn't even really everybody. There was a lot of people that were on the J train after that.
It was
J train.
the 2019 spring game,
yeah,
right?
2019. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, look, we've seen some bad quarterback play around here lately. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, what is this? It wasn't horrific by any means. He kind of fit right into me the way he threw the ball. No, he's not great throwing the ball, but it was almost as if they couldn't trust him to throw a screen pass. It was just really bizarre. It was really bizarre with the way the season went last year that he wasn't used at all until Willie left, and then he becomes a valuable weapon. Like I looked it up the other day. I forgot all about it, but he ran for like 70 yards in the bowl game.
Yeah.
Like he was their second leading rusher. He was a weapon. And obviously he did what he did against Boston College, and he had a couple. Well, no, he didn't. Didn't he get blasted in the Florida game? Didn't he?
Yeah.
He took a really bad hit, but he had some nice moments at quarterback last year, but only after Willie left, which is really bizarre. But yeah, no, he can throw the ball fine. I've watched him throw, 150 passes at practices and warming up and in scrimmages and stuff. I've never been wowed. Like, right. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Yeah. But I've also never looked at it and been,
how did he get here?
Yeah, how did he get here? Is he sure he's not left-handed? Yeah. Like, I haven't said that either. So I think I think he's capable. Is a long-winded way of saying that. So the answer is I don't know why they wouldn't let him throw the ball at all.
Yeah. We're going to continue our series, kind of a quasi-series. We'll have it on Monday. We interviewed one of the high school coaches for one of the quarterbacks on the Florida State roster. Wasn't Jordan Travis's coach. Do stay tuned, though. We'll try to get him on the show. I think his coach was Eric Kresser, who used to play at Florida. I think it was actually his high school coach. So we'll see. Maybe he can shed some light on it. But it is pretty bizarre, and that's a good point.
Eric Kresser started at Florida and then might have transferred to Marshall and might have played with Randy Moss.
No. You're thinking Chad Pennington, all the white quarterbacks.
No, I know who Chad Pennington was, but I thought Eric Kresser was there for one of those years with Randy Moss. Maybe they were both Chad Pennington.
How about you look it up, Corey? How about you look that one up?
I'm going to look it up.
You look that one up. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I agree to Corey's point. I mean, I've never seen him spin the ball and cringe, and I've never seen him spin the ball and be like, why is he not in there? We'll try to figure that out, though, and we'll see how it goes when they do return to practice, which we're hoping will be August 7th. Depending on if they do stick to this whole September 7th to the 12th being the first week of the season. We're moving on here. I'll just Browden Dynasty. We appreciate the question, but this is like an Ira question. You should probably tag him in it. He was basically asking us. He was, showing some ability to read the room when he says, "I'm sure both of you have spent hundreds of hours looking at the ACC grant of rights." With Notre Dame joining temporarily for the season, the revenue between the ACC and the rest of the Power Five growing larger every year, is there any sort of out? If Notre Dame or any team join the ACC in the next 14 years, do they just get added to the original deal? I'm sure there's got to be some sort of protection, or the ACC will do the math and figure out, is it worth adding Notre Dame and then leaving the back door open for other programs to want to leave. Clemson's doing pretty good right now, but if Clemson could find a house somewhere else in a better neighborhood, I'm sure they would look into it and do it, although who knows, maybe they like being in the ACC. It's a pretty manageable road to the playoff being in this conference for them. So I know that's everyone's dream to get out of here, but I don't know where do we want to go and how are we going to be treated, and is it really going to work out for the best?
I wasn't listening to any of that.
You're not. It wasn't really even. It was just me stalling. It's fine.
But Eric Kresser did play for the 1996 Marshall Thundering Herd football team.
Look at that.
He threw for 35 touchdowns and 3,400 yards, and they won the 1AA football championship to finish 15-0. And yeah, he had a freshman receiver named Randy Moss.
Look at Corey.
I did it again.
I wonder if Eric Kresser was at Marshall when Randy Moss was there.
Man, I knew he went to Marshall. I just couldn't remember for sure. But now I want to look up how many of those touchdowns were Randy Moss touchdowns.
So who did he back up then? Was that like Terry Dean, or was he Werfel's backup?
He was Werfel's backup.
Werfel's backup.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't remember. Was Moss any good in college?
Randy?
Why did it? No, I was just kidding. He had his last year at Marshall. He played there, right?
Yeah.
His last year, he had 96 catches for 1,820 yards and 26 touchdowns. 26 touchdown catches. And that was division like that. His last year was the year they made the move to 1A, and he had 26 touchdown catches. He averaged 19 yards a catch on 96 catches. Oh, anyway, he was pretty good.
All right. Turnto lives. Wake up. My wife is a resident doctor. The hospital has been providing high-quality vitamins and supplements to her and her fellow residents, and to date, only one of her coworkers has got COVID-19. Do you know if the team is supplying vitamins to the players' immune systems? I don't. I don't think they are probably either. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's just I would think that they would trumpet any, not just Florida State. I think any school would trumpet the fact that they're diving into their coffer and spending money on preventative medicine as the season tries to get off the ground, and there's so many questions. You figure they would throw everything out there to show just how safe and proactive they're being. So I don't think so. I can try to find out. But yeah. Marnol55, Corey, you've said no to this before, but now would you like to schedule Florida Atlantic University?
No.
Gosh.
Nothing to gain. Absolutely nothing to gain. It's not worth the gate because there is no gate. It's not worth whatever the TV revenue, unless ESPN's like, absolutely will give you this amount of money because we need the content, because we got this week off where nobody else is playing because they're all cowards and they decided to just have conference-only games. If ESPN can make it worth their while, then absolutely. But otherwise, no. There's no point. There's no need. No reason. Nothing gained.
All right, let's see if we can hustle through and get through the rest of these. Tally Knoll, it's already been asked. Tally Knoll 97. Wake up, now that the Florida game isn't happening, who do you want to see scheduled for our out-of-conference game? He says FAU. That would attract national attention with Willie back in Doak. What say you? What do you think? How about this, Corey? What do you think is more likely? Florida State schedules some other school in this non-conference window, or the ACC just says, all right, we made our point. We tried to keep these rivalries open. SEC ran and ducked us. We're going to do 10 games as well.
No, I think it's 50-50, man. I really don't have a strong leaning one way or the other. I don't quite understand what would be gained from it unless, again, ESPN is floating some money out there for you. But there's just what game could Clemson have that's appealing, or Florida State has that's appealing? They're automatic. You could try to schedule an automatic win, and sure, it would help. But I mean, are you going to pay? What are you going to pay Samford to come play at your game, at your stadium? 1/10 of what you normally pay him?
Yeah.
Like, what would be worth their while to come play you? Because, yeah, you're not going to pay them 1.3 or whatever the going rate is these days for a Southern Conference team, because you're not getting the gate. So I don't know. I think it's 50-50 for real. I think the ACC would like to continue with their – I don't know if the ACC wants to look like the SEC just kneecapped them. Like, maybe the ACC is like, oh, we don't care if they can play with us or not. We're going to have our own – because that was only 4 games, right?
Yeah. Right.
That they were planning on. So that's still 11 other teams that we're going to have to figure out a non-conference game. So I think they'll try to do it, and maybe you get Samford to come to your place for $150,000, but otherwise it just wouldn't make a ton of sense for me. By the way, so in his freshman year at Marshall, he had 78 catches for 1,700 yards and 28 touchdowns. He also led the country in kickoff return average with the 34-yard average. And he had a touchdown catch in 14 straight games. And he finished second in the country in the 200-meter dash. He ran a 21.15. So, yeah, Randy Moss could have been used at Florida State.
So why did Bobby not keep him? Well, I mean, it was one striking out, but, we couldn't be like, I was kind of off the plate a little bit.
He had to go, because he tested positive for marijuana, he had to go spend time in jail. So he had a 30-day jail sentence back in West Virginia. He had a one-strike policy at Florida State, and the president at the time did not want one of his potential star players spending a month in jail. Just thought it was a bad look for the program, and so they had to let him go. They did not have to let him go. They did let him go, and they lost themselves at least one national championship, and probably, I would guess 3. Like, you didn't really even have to redshirt him. Imagine Randy Moss on the 95 team that averaged 50 points a game anyway.
I don't want to.
Do you think?
It's depressing.
Who do you think gets the ball there at the 3-yard line against Virginia? Would it even mattered? Wouldn't you have been up by 3 scores already? I mean, good grief. Warwick Dunn with Randy Moss, Andre Cooper, E.G. Green. Oh, geez. Anyway, whatever. It was pot. It was where, oh, my gosh, it was weed. He was smoking weed. You can't have that around college football.
AES117, wake up. I'm going to start with a hot take. I don't hate the schedule. It isn't the ACC's job to protect us. Rather, it is our job to be the best. And he adds some stuff that we've already talked about for it being a good schedule. My question is about recruiting. Do you think that not playing Florida will be good for us on the recruiting trail? I know that one game shouldn't matter that much, but I feel like this game, more so than others, serves as a sort of litmus test of the state of the 2 major. Yeah, I said 2 with win the conference once Miami programs in the state. Yeah, man, it's like, trying to take a girl out. And I don't know, Brad Pitt shows up, and you probably don't want to be seen next to Brad Pitt. Although I don't want to compare Hogtown to Brad Pitt.
Yeah, Florida's not Brad Pitt.
It's a net positive not playing Florida in all aspects.
On the theory that you weren't going to beat them,
right?
And there was a chance that you got your brains beat in again.
Yeah.
Yes, going on that theory, absolutely. It doesn't hurt you at all that you're not playing Florida, but if you end up with a really good team in 2020 that goes 8-2, and Florida isn't great, then yeah.
Then you're like, dang it. Well, I mean, either way, you have the moral high ground right now. They ducked you. The SEC is like, nope, we're not doing it. We're not playing anybody else besides us. We're going to show you how much we do. How just you think we're incestuous. You thought we were incestuous then? Wait for this. And then also, last question from him. I know you guys were busy on game day, but if you each got to attend a game in Doak just as a fan, where would you want to tailgate? Where would you want to sit? And where would you go to celebrate the win? Brady is with his mom for the weekend. Aslan has a cat sitter. Money isn't an object. It's a 3:30 game. The bars are all open after. Good question.
That is a good question. Well, you know where I would probably be. Oh, we're talking about Tallahassee, right?
Right. Well, it's in Doak. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where. I'd go tailgate with somebody that does it up, man. That, number one, has a TV. I don't understand the people that tailgate with just loud music, with no, like, college football on the TV. That, to me, that's not what tailgating's about. Yeah. What is it, a dance party?
Right.
Or are we college football fans? Like, you can have some music going on. I don't need to hear the announcer. I don't need to hear Sean McDonough. But you need to have some TVs and some college football on. So I would want to go there. The people that like, some tailgaters are almost like the people that are too into Halloween.
Right.
Like you start questioning priorities a little bit. And look, I love tailgating and I love college football. But the people that have these unbelievable vans and these $6,000 grills, and they're cooking lobster tails and steak, and they're there for 12 or 16 hours, you're like, all right, well, man, there's a lot of other stuff you could do with your time. It's the same thing with Halloween, the people that start decorating on, September 12th, and they're just too into it. Maybe there are people that are too serious about tailgating. But that said, for one afternoon, that's exactly where I'd want to go, is those people. Because they're going to take care of you. It means more to them than almost anything that they put on a show and they're a good host. So that's where I want to go. They have a disco light, probably. They got 6 TVs all set up with satellite. Man, yeah, that's where I'd go.
I would tailgate at the KD house. Maybe the Tri-Delt house.
I'd go to the Tri-Lambda house.
Okay, Tri-Lambs.
I guess I'd go Tri-Lam first and then there. But yeah, okay. Then what? Then where would you go for post game?
Well, in Doak, give me 50-yard line, 30 up, shady side.
Absolutely. You know what? I think I would want to be in the last row on the shady side, where there's nobody behind me. I can stand up. There's that brick behind you. Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
And then afterwards, maybe the saloon, for old time's sake, the Palace Saloon. Just take a walk across Lake Bradford and go to the Palace.
I'd probably walk to Leon Pub.
Oh, that's a brisk walk. Look at you.
Yeah. Well, that's where you go to celebrate a big win, right?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. We got 2 questions left, but they kind of dovetail into one. Old Dad's a Knoll. Actually, remember he was asking us about making a wager. Aslan, you were correct, finishing the point that a wager has to be completed before it becomes an actual win. Whether you bet on a game, half, season, the wager has to go the entirety before you get paid. For example, Corey, if the total on the Braves playoff game, actually I shouldn't read all that. Anyhow, football is a heavy subject, but I'm stoked about the basketball behemoth being formed here. If I may ask, what do you guys feel happened here? A dozen years ago, Coach had a roster full of 4- and 5-star players several seasons. Always great defense, but let's face it, watching the offense was brutal. What has changed here? More to Pride Knoll 850. With Coach Ham having the number 1 recruiting class in the country so far, actually number 2, do you think fans in Tallahassee can finally accept and respect our basketball program and what Coach Ham has done, even though he has yet to bring a national title to Tallahassee?
Well, look, on that front now, they've had nice crowds.
Yeah.
To really good crowds over the last few years. Look, this is a football school and it's a football fan base, but let's give them credit for they are the Louisville game was as loud as I've ever heard a arena. They're starting to become more basketball savvy, and yeah, they're filling up the place. The students have been great, really, for years now. There's those pockets that we all see on TV. That's a whole different story. But there's those pockets we see on TV right behind the benches that sometimes don't get filled at all. But the rest of the arena is usually pretty full and really loud when it needs to be. So I would say the fan base in Tallahassee is really starting to come around on the program. Look, 10 years ago, even when they were good, it wasn't. They were dentist appointments. It just wasn't fun. It was a gruel. It was a grind. Grueling grind, not gruel. Like, isn't gruel like type of slop food?
Yeah, that's what they serve. Yeah. Prison Mike, that's what they serve in the jail. Gruel.
That's right. Tanks. That's a funny episode. I think what's happened is, number one, Charlton Young has made a huge difference. The guy has connections all over. Really likable guy, good recruiter, and I think once he got here, the recruiting picked up a little bit. Great at making relationships. Give credit to all those coaches. Stan's done a terrific job as well. But they also changed the style of play. They made it more like, look, if you're a top 50 kid, imagine being the number 33 player in the country as a high school basketball player, where your whole goal is to get to the NBA. Sure, you'd like to get to a Final Four. You want to win games in college. But your whole life has been geared towards getting to the NBA. Well, Florida State, what could they really show? Okay, Chris Singleton got drafted high, but is in Europe. Tony Douglas was a first-round pick, but now is in Europe and hasn't played in the league in a while. And a lot of guys that had cups of coffee but never really made it. Well, now you got Beasley, Bacon, Mann, Cabangeli, Isaac. You got more coming. Obviously, you got 2 guys that are going to be in the NBA after this year. It's become an appealing place for guys to come. They know they're not going to score a ton of points. They're not going to be counted on to average 22 a game. And I think for some of these kids, that's appealing. And they know they're going to learn to play defense, which is going to make them appealing to scouts. But more than anything, I think you got to credit Leonard for completely changing his style of play. He does not want to win games 51-46 anymore. He wants to win them 83-82. Well, no, I'm sorry, 83-62.
Yeah.
There is just a fast-paced, more fun style of play. And it's taken off. They've recruited much better. They win, and they get guys to the league.
Well said, Corey.
I thought so. Yeah.
Man, you make my life so easy on this show. I appreciate you.
You got it, buddy.
We've reached the finish line, but plenty more going on over on warchant.com. As always, stay connected to the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. I don't know if we're going to do a happy hour not on Friday, but in any event, we'll be back Monday, new edition of the show. We'll probably be talking about football because it's just that time of year. Is it going to be August when we hang out next time? It's going to be August. It's going to be
probably be a nip in the air. You can feel football coming. It's going to get down to maybe 96, and you just know that football is right around the corner.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.